Welcome to the Cincy Postcast. I'm Kevin Wallace, and before we get started with today's episode, I get to tell you about our friends over at Streetside Brewery, one of the best damn breweries you will find in this city. They are doing some amazing stuff over there. I am so happy that we get to work with them here at the Postcast because at Streetside, they have a huge variety of beers, and they are all so good. They have some really good stuff out there. They have adventurous beers for the adventurous drinker in your life. They've got the easy drinkers as well. It is a very relaxed, chill environment there over at their brewery. It's such a good time. I am, again, just so happy we get to work with them because they've always been one of my favorites. You find them over there in the Columbia Tusculum neighborhood of Cincinnati. Really good stuff happening over there. And we mention this every week. They always have a cool event going on. They've always got something going on. Here you go. If you need something for Valentine's Day, you've waited till the week of, you need something to impress the significant other, here you go. They are doing a special Valentine's Day dinner where you can get tri-tip entrees or tuna steaks. It's good stuff there. It's a little pricier than the normal food offerings there, but it's going to be a good time because they're doing it right for Valentine's Day, okay? And you get to check out the environment there. You get to drink some good beers. It's a really good time. So yeah, check that out if you need something for Valentine's Day. It looks like they got trivia starting up again as well. So go check them out. Really good stuff. Hey, when you're there, maybe not for the Valentine's Day, but when you're there just drinking, mention the Postcast, and they will knock $1 off of your beer for mentioning the Postcast when you were clearing out your tab. Really, really thankful to Streetside for sponsoring this show and so many others. And yeah, man. Valentine's Day dinner at Streetside sounds like a really good time. So go check them out. Again, huge thank you to Streetside. And what are we talking about? I mean, come on. Why are you even pretending like you don't know what we're going to be talking about on this one? It is Lucho Acosta transferred out. Evander transferred in. It finally happened. The deal is done. The team is virtually set at this point. Reactions, thoughts, feelings, emotions. We get into it. Enjoy this postcast, a historic postcast. Oh my gosh. Emergency podcast, gentlemen. We've got to get on the horn. We've got to talk about this. The news is breaking. Chief, the kit launch happened today. How are we feeling?
Told everyone it was going to look better in person. Told everyone to not panic. It looks fantastic. Great kit. Can't wait. Anything that helps us move on from the awful river kit, completely fine with.
That might be one of your hottest takes, by the way.
What, the river kit is trash? It's the worst. It is the worst uniform this club has worn in MLS.
In a world where the dynamic kit exists, where the bold kit exists, where the heritage kit exists.
Bold kit was fine. No, just like some clip art of water put over top of a blue top. It's nonsense.
I remember it was originally sold to me as it's the river. Oh, that's cool to have
it looks like a stream from bend. No, it looks like a stream from a hose. It's the drinking from the hose kit.
Oh, no, that is not why we're here to talk, Chief. It's an emergency because Lucho Acosta, club legend, is gone. He has left the team. He is, as of recording, the record cash transfer within MLS that is expected to be absolutely demolished by about 4 times, a little after we're done recording. Grayson.
Four times, like 2.5. 2.4 times.
2.4 times. I was
240% of it.
Hell yeah.
If you count, exceeded by 140%.
Okay, I like that version of it. I like that framing. But
Give or
Grayson,
take some percent based on performance and other metrics that could increase the value significantly.
I really want a transfer with a negative performance bonus where you pay back some of the transfer fee if they're like really bad. I think that would be good.
If these players keep holding out for new deals just because they have a nice season, we might have to start building some de-escalators into some of these contracts.
Yeah, what I'm learning is that the team should just pay them less to start.
Right. You like
and then when they play well, give them a big raise.
Every contract is senior minimum, and then for every appearance you get a little money, every goal you get a little money, every win you get a little money, and if you have an incredible season, oh hell yeah, you're making millions of dollars. But not everybody's going to get there. No, Grayson, what is the reaction? What is your gut reaction? The news is done. How do we feel tonight about Lucho Acosta no longer being with this team and Evander taking his place?
What, is Evander taking his place?
I'm going to say yes.
Yes. Evander's already in Florida, baby.
I haven't seen a picture of him. I haven't seen any acknowledgement of this. So as far as I know, we're running an attack of Kubo, Orishanu, and Denke. And you know what?
That's probably pretty good.
It's pretty good.
And then this really, really talented trialist that we're not allowed to talk about until.
Well, that's Lucas Engel.
Yeah, right.
The other
Lucas Engel is the trialist that we're not allowed to talk about because he's been with the team for like 3 weeks in Middlesbrough. Right. I'm not. By the way, people have criticized our pronunciation of this city in England. I don't care. I watched an entire Olympics where English speakers talked about it being in Torino, Italy. Like it's either Turin, Italy or Torino, Italia. Like it's
a good point.
I'm aware of a dish called Peking duck.
Yeah. My goal in life was to visit Bombay, India.
If there's anything that Gordon Bombay, India.
Yeah.
If there's anything that I care about less, it's how to pronounce things in England.
Oh my God.
Our once and hopefully future kings.
The reboot of the Mighty Ducks should have definitely featured
Come back, take
Gordon Mumbai.
Gordon Mumbai.
Gordon Mumbai.
That's the woke Mighty Ducks.
The decolonized version of the Mighty Ducks.
I don't know if that's woke. Indian nationalism's fun. Chief, club legend leaves. This is a weird moment, I think, for the fan base because there's not as much sadness as I think you might expect describing this situation from the outside, at least that I'm seeing.
No.
What is your thought on the fan reaction that you've seen so far?
That's a complicated question. I don't know. Here's the problem is that I think that collectively as a fan base, we all have a hard time in this moment right now processing the fact that what has happened is entirely the fault of Lucho Acosta.
Yeah.
That everyone had in their minds that he was, he's the guy pointing to the badge, pointing to the field, yelling, "This is my city." He's the guy taking out the full page ad, signs the long-term deal, talks about wanting to retire for FC Cincinnati, wants his kids to play for the academy. And then in the span of less than 18 months, 12 months,
yeah,
he's wanting out. He describes in great detail his desire that he's done with this chapter of his career. He wants to move back home. Then it's, I don't feel respected by the club. The general manager isn't respecting me, that I can't, this town ain't big enough for the both of us. And it's hard to know, it's hard not to understand at this point, or hard not to see at this point, that everything that has led us to this point is at the feet of Lucho Acosta. He was embraced by this city. He was embraced by this club. He was incredibly well compensated by this club. And he responded by doing great things in an FC Cincinnati uniform. But this part of the legacy, it's so different than the rest of his playing time here that it's just sort of hard to process.
I can help
process what's going on.
I can help state this more succinctly, especially for maybe some of our younger listeners. He bombed us, then he ghosted us, and that was high key sus.
I hate the fact that I simultaneously understand and don't understand what you just said right there. And I don't know which of those two facts troubles me more.
It is so weird how this ended, because up until the playoff loss, I think most people assumed whatever was going on with Lucho was probably injury related. There were whispers of, marital issues behind the scenes, but I don't think anybody expected this to be like dragging the club in public and literally going on a tour of South America, begging teams to sign him, and then ending up in Dallas. Many people have made this point. I don't even know who to begin to give credit to. The person who comes to mind is our friend Joseph Mamey, who said throughout this offseason, Lucho's main complaints were that he wanted to play for a championship, he wanted to play with his friends, and he wanted to go back to Argentina. And as of today, he is on a team that is much further away from a championship than FC Cincinnati. As far as I can tell, none of his friends play for that team. And that team is in Frisco, Texas, not exactly Argentina. Is a direct flight worth all of this?
I'm a little concerned. One of the things that concerns me is so 23, 24, and then 25, all I think firmly within what you would consider FC Cincinnati's championship window.
Yes.
And in 23 and 24, you can say each of those years, somebody decided that they were not interested in winning a championship, in winning MLS Cup. In 23, Matt Miazga decided he was not interested in winning MLS Cup. He
said he was interested in delivering a pizza.
He was not concerned about his availability. He was not concerned about anything. He just said, I care more about delivering this point than I care about winning MLS Cup. And, that's that. Okay, fine. So 23, a decision was made. We did not win MLS Cup. There were other things that happened as well. Obi was injured. The team got sick that week.
Right.
Hagland also was out. But there was one person who made a deliberate decision. I do not want to win MLS Cup this year. And that was made. In 2024, there was also a deliberate decision made that we were not going to win MLS Cup. It was by Chris Albright. When he didn't, make a $5 million raise offer to get to Josh Sargent or whatever decision, it was a deliberate decision. I'm sorry. I'm not to revisit this too much. Right. But it was a deliberate decision.
No, just every second episode or so.
Well, you know what? If you're going to talk about trophies you've won, you can talk about trophies you've lost.
Sure.
So, and a decision was made that we're not going to win this year. So, Nico Gioacchini, come on down, right? And
you
then
don't
in
think
2020,
Aaron Bupenza made a decision somewhere along the way?
Hey man, what are you looking at?
Aaron Bupenza also made a decision. And then in 2025, Lucho Acosta made a decision. Because if he hadn't said what he said after the NYCFC game, if he hadn't been running all around Argentine media talking about, I've thought about this for half of a second, but I am ready to go to Boca Juniors. Right? If he wasn't doing everything he could to force a move out all off season, and then, when it didn't work out, deciding I'm going to get the GM fired. They're going to pick me over the GM. They're going to pick me, who was on the team when it finished last place, over the executive who was never been with the team when it finished last place. I'm gonna get him fired, and that's what we're gonna do. He decided, and Lucho Acosta in 2025 decided he wasn't going to win MLS Cup, right?
Yeah.
But hopefully he's decided he's not going to win a MLS Cup in Dallas.
at least the decision was made early enough in the season that there may be the ability to course correct.
Yeah.
I'll say for FCC.
What is funny about that, what you just said there? Yeah, I think an untold part of this, or an untalked about part of this, is that he definitely got buyer's remorse at the end. And I don't know that he knew what to do about that fact. And like you said, he made the decision that I guess my play is to try and turn sentiment of the owners and sentiment of the fans against Chris Albright. Like, giving this quote to Laurel and giving this story to Laurel with this idea that maybe the owners don't know what Chris is doing, which is just a wild thought. But you know what?
Tattle.
You know what? Sometimes your only play is the Hail Mary. Sometimes you just reach that point in the game where the only thing you can do is chuck it down the field and hope for a flag or a lucky bounce. And it is weird how, if he had chosen not to run his mouth, or if he'd kept all this in-house and said quietly to the club, I don't know that I'm in love with this anymore. I don't know that I love this, but I'm not in love, or whatever it is, and said, you know what, before it gets any worse, can you explore a move for me someplace else? And maybe they do this shopping down to South America quietly, and maybe then he finds out what a Google search could have told him, that you're going to have to take a pretty substantial pay cut to go down to Argentina. And if all this happens quietly and professionally, there's probably a really good chance right now Lucho Acosta is in training and preparing to once again be the captain of this club going into the 2025 season. But it was the public meltdown and the public temper tantrum, for lack of a better phrasing, that kind of was like there was no going back after he said this sort of stuff. And there was certainly no going back after he goes and he cuts a promo on Chris Albright to Laurel Failer.
Especially on the not gonna respond to my text message bit, which I guarantee that what he's not responding to my text messages is, hey, I've changed my mind, I'd kind of like to stay now. Yes, but by that point it's like the die was cast. If you're Chris Albright, it would be malpractice to bring the guy back after he popped off asking to leave publicly, went on his please somebody sign me tour in South America. Like, you can't take a risk that he's going to pull this in the summer. We should throw in there, not to blow up his spot, but Nick Haglund seen liking a tweet that said, ship out Lucho, bring in Evander, out there on the internet. I mean, if you've lost Nick Haglund, come on.
You've basically lost the city of Cincinnati at that point.
So we actually said, after he said his comments right after the game, and I think probably even after he skipped out on media day to do ESPN Argentina, I'm pretty sure we said, like, if he just wants to just say like whoopsie daisy and come back, he can. You would not have believed how much it didn't happen.
And
if he had decided back in like November, December to just come back and be like, yeah, this is fine. Because he's like, oh, they didn't sign me a striker all year.
Yeah, man, everyone was pissed.
Now we set an MLS transfer record at the time.
Right after the end of the season.
Literally the next day.
There's too much turnover. Well, everybody's back this year.
All right.
Pretty much. Right? Except, like, you complain about he complains about like all his buddies didn't come back. Well, there's a reason that Moreno, when he came back to MLS, came back to Houston on a supplemental deal, and then his option wasn't picked up. And now he's in Argentina, and all the fans of the team he's playing on are just talking about how much he sucks. And
Assad.
Emil Assad is in Serie B in Brazil.
Oof.
Like,
rough.
Point taken with Arias. Maybe we want that one back.
Yeah.
But
like that's 1 out of 3. Then
it's 1 out of like 6 because Barreal forced his way out. Brandon won it out. Brandon got an $8 million move in like a 3 to 4x salary.
Yeah.
And he's coming to MLS as a DP. Like that wasn't going to happen for him here. And nor should it have, by the way.
Right.
No, and it's fascinating to me how poorly Lucho played this situation. And look, I get it. People aren't rational actors. And given, what Lucho went through last year, where his physical state was at the end of the season, where his mental state was at the end of the season, you get the frustration. But the continued doubling down after, I'm sure, one conversation with his agent would have told him, here's the pay cut you're going to need to be prepared to take to go back to Argentina.
Yeah.
And even if you set everything else aside, money talks. And at the end of the day, that's why he's not playing for Estudiantes right now, is because he couldn't stomach the haircut that he would have had to take to go back and play in South America. And now he is in MLS. He is still making his salary, but I don't understand the world that you would look at to say he is in a better place for his career in terms of his visibility in the league, the quality of team he's going to play on, the opportunity to win trophies.
Yep.
I mean, everything about this, he has transitioned to a worse situation. And I don't know if Dallas is offering him a new deal and he's making more money. We won't know that, I guess, until the salaries drop when the MLSPA numbers come out. They certainly haven't announced that they have a new deal for him.
Yeah.
But God, it's just everything about this Bye Lucho was played the wrong way. And you know what? That's sad because it didn't have to be this way. And I feel bad that he made the wrong decision at every step of the way. He ignored off ramps at every step of the way. And a guy that should have been a club legend, a guy that should have had his number retired or his name in the Ring of Honor or with a statue around the outside of the stadium, that this is sort of like the last memory we have of him. And this is sort of how his career is going to go. I mean, when you think about it, I was looking at the stats on this. Before he arrived in Cincinnati, FC Cincinnati had won a grand total of 10 MLS games. 10. Like,
out of 66 games or something like that? 68
a little
games?
less than that, because it was 2019 and 2020, and the 2020 season was truncated due to COVID.
Right. Okay.
But still,
my
10
God.
total wins.
My God.
And he's responsible not solely, I mean, it's a team sport, but at the end of the day, he was the MVP of the best, MVP on the best team in club history that won the only major trophy in club history. And what a way to go out.
Yeah. It's so sad. Like, we've been robbed of an opportunity to have a true club legend, a true face of this team, a player that when you think of FC Cincinnati, you immediately think of this player. And for fans right now, and especially if you've become a fan, say post-pandemic, that is the case for you right now. I think for those of us with longer memories, he ends up on a similar spot, not much higher, don't get me wrong, but Manny Ledesma won a league MVP. Shauna Coley won a league MVP. We've seen really good guys. We've seen guys like Mitch Hildebrandt become legends for a couple of seasons. We've seen guys like Nick Hagland become a fan favorite for multiple seasons. So he just it's sad that he just becomes like another one of the really good players, guys with incredible moments with the club that you just think like, man, if he had just stuck it out for 2 more years, saw out the rest of his deal, right? Like he really could have cemented himself in the consciousness of like Cincinnati sports, let alone soccer, MLS. And it was thrown away for, again, what don't look like comprehensible reasons.
Well,
like,
it's not just that he threw away the ability to be like, like a club legend, like as he told, Laurel Failer, like retire with the club, which is like, you were just talking about going back to Argentina and ending your career there and how that's all you ever wanted to do your entire life.
Right.
But now you're like, oh, I wanted to like retire there or whatever. Like I think I said it on this show that like, I really thought that he could have been like a Maxi Morales or Diego Valeri, like somebody who, like does finish out his career here. But it's not just that we were robbed of that. Like, honestly, like who to a certain extent, like who gives a shit, right? About that.
I do. I care.
We had every reason to believe that this was a trophy year, like a multiple trophy year. If like you run the team back, you bring in some additions, you got Kevin Denke, you solved that issue, Miazga's healthy, Hagelin's healthy.
Finally, a backup defensive midfielder for the first time.
Like we had every reason to believe ending the season, like, 2024 got away from us, but 2025 could be like the year, right? Yeah. Exercising the option on Orishano, all of everything, right?
Yeah.
And then the only thing that we had to think about because of how he chose to be was like Lucho is screwing this up for us on purpose for no good reason.
Really messed up the vibes. Like, it's so funny that like from listening to, because preseason hype, right? Been listening to a lot of league-wide outlets talking about the league, the season, the previews. Everybody's hyped for FC Cincinnati. Everybody's saying, oh my gosh, super deep roster. This is a competitor. The East is going to be incredible with this team. And in Cincinnati, all I hear from anybody, including my own mouth, is like the terror of having our MVP, our talisman, the man that the entire club had been built around, was refusing to play for the team, wanted out, was burning every bridge available, maybe even literally. We never found the suspects.
Maybe that's why he needs to leave. He needs an alibi. He didn't have an alibi. He needs to get the hell out of Dodge.
He misunderstood the idiom, and that like the season is up in the air, and it felt like, oh my God, we got Denke, but who's going to pass him the ball? And then you throw in a couple other guys don't show up to preseason training. You think, oh my God, the wheels are falling off of what Grayson said, a trophy season.
Well, if you think about it, like they just like right before he made those comments, they had committed to investing at the time, again, an MLS record transfer fee on Kevin Denke, and all Denke was saying was how he recognized how many chances the team was generating and how that was really attractive to him. And he really felt like he saw like the hole in the roster that he was going to fill. And it's not just like the trophy stuff. It's like, dude, like now you're like sabotaging our biggest ever transfer.
Right. Would Denke have signed if Lucho doesn't play for FC Cincinnati? It's actually not clear if he wouldn't have signed here. And throw in the fact that Denke is not like a flyer. Denke is not a big name, therefore they had to spend a lot of money. Denke was a guy that when signed, like, we heard Tom Bogert say this, that chief soccer officers from around the league were messaging Tom saying, I can't believe they're signing that guy. We have always loved that guy, but we always assumed he was off the table. Like it was just like
he would have signed in the Premier League if he hadn't signed with us. And like Lucho's like running around complaining like, well, Chris Albert has never met a player before, and he doesn't know how to do anything. He signed you a better guy than you've ever played with in your entire career.
Yeah.
And not only a better guy than you played with in your entire career,
I know he
a better
played
guy than you will ever play with in
Again.
Dallas. Again,
The rest of
you
your
will
life.
never play with a better guy than that. Like, I hope you enjoyed watching him in Clearwater, because that's the closest you're going to get to being teammates with a guy of this caliber, because Dallas doesn't spend money on players like this.
I'll tell you, if it comes out that like the friend that Lucho wanted Albright to sign was like Leo Paredes,
Right.
and Leo Paredes was willing to come on like a TAM deal, and Albright was like, no, we already got Pavel Buka. I'll be like,
hell of an endorsement of Buka.
I'll be like, all right, maybe. But
Right. Yeah, I did in the Discord put together the what I assume was the all Lucho team. I gotta say, formidable attack in the all Lucho team.
Not a lot of defense, though.
Don't worry about defense.
A lot of cards on the back line.
So there we go. So Lucho is out. Now here's a funny thing I want to talk to about, but please, Chief, what do you got?
Before we move on from Lucho, what's his legacy with the club?
Yes, let's talk about this.
it'll be different in 3 years.
I agree with that. I think right now it's raw a little bit. And I think
now
there's
it's Francois Amaya.
not quite Franuel.
I know it's Franuel, but it's
okay.
It's Franchester to another
Franchester Martin
Franchester.
Fran Hugh.
It's Frankie Amora.
Montoya.
Just one level more.
It's complicated now. I think that eventually the fan base will look back on this whole situation mostly fondly. I think that the two things that would complicate this one way or the other is if Lucho wins an MLS Cup at Dallas, which I don't see happening, but
man,
I feel awful putting it out there. But if he leaves and wins a trophy, especially if he leaves and somehow denies FC Cincinnati a trophy,
oh my God,
whether that's in a cup final,
don't put that out into the universe.
That will certainly change things a little bit. Yeah. If this team doesn't come together as a result of whatever the moves they've made are, because, that's a possibility. You don't know until you try something. I think that might color things, but even then it'll just set the clock back a little bit. Whereas instead of in 3 years, people are willing to embrace Lucho Acosta, then maybe you're talking 5, 6.
Yeah.
And I don't even know that the feeling right now is anger. I don't know many people that are angry at Lucho. I think it's people are disappointed and ready to move on.
Yeah.
And there was a frustration that it took this long and a frustration that it got to this point. But I don't sense the same sort of seething anger with Lucho that there was for Frankie. I just think it's a different story.
Yeah, it helps that the team is not as bad as it was when Frankie was leaving. I think that certainly played into it. Also, Frankie was seen as one for the future, like a guy that we could build around, versus Lucho was a let's win a trophy now guy. I also think, Chief, though, to add to that, I think if FC Cincinnati were to win MLS Cup this season, let's say, it's going to be hard to look back at Lucho.
All is forgiven.
Yeah. Well, I just think there's he was a good player for a little bit, but then we won the trophy with Denke and whoever.
He helped get us. You could say that he helped get us to this point. This was a build to the cup. And once you win a trophy like that, once you win MLS Cup, you embrace every player along the way that you could plausibly say built you to that point. We win MLS Cup this year. It's going to be a celebration of Lucho. It's going to be a celebration of Brandon Vasquez. It's going to be a celebration of all these players where you can say, look where we started when we came into MLS. Look where we are now. And everybody sort of helped along the way to reach the summit.
His best case is as Rhaegar Targaryen.
Go on.
He's a transitional guy who was viewed as the savior, was not, but potentially could have been the one before the savior.
So to put this in Carl Linder terms, it's John the Baptist then.
Sure.
Yes.
I don't know what that is.
Don't worry about it.
The Pope will subtweet you.
But conversely, he's Anakin.
He's the chosen one, but not in the way we thought.
Well, he's the chosen one who turned evil and had to be defeated.
So the Anakin arc is complete when in 4 years he is a mid-season cheap loan in the year that we win MLS Cup.
So, but I guess my
Matt
point,
Miazga yells at him and says, "It's over, Lucho. I have the high ground."
I guess my point is that he is only ever going to be like a transitional or like precursor figure for the team.
Yeah.
So either he's a team who helped us go from the bottom to the level we needed to be to then put the team together to win, or he's going to be a guy who, we thought was going to take us there and just sabotaged us and left, and it never happened. Right. So best case, he's like the guy before the guy.
Yeah.
At this point, I know we won the Shield, and that was cool. But even like that year, just coming away with the Shield felt disappointing.
Yeah.
Given how good the team was at full strength and what they did in the various tournaments.
Yeah. And what could have been that season. They
could have won. Honestly, they could have won 4 trophies that season.
Yeah. Open Cup was right there for the taking.
Open Cup and MLS Cup were right there for the taking.
Like 30 seconds away. 30 seconds away from winning Open Cup.
Yeah.
And like 2 minutes away from winning.
And both matches, they were missing like key players.
Yeah.
I'll say this, that I'm processing this a little differently personally, because personally, the high point of my FC Cincinnati fandom involved a rather public moment with Lucho Acosta on the field.
It did.
Following winning the Supporters Shield, and that's still to this day top 2 or 3 coolest things I've ever done in my life. Like, that's going beyond just FC Cincinnati, handing the Supporters Shield over to the team on the presentation night to Lucho. Made for a hilarious photograph just because we're at eye level and he's standing on a platform. It's actually funny. We didn't know who was going to hand the Supporters Shield over to Lucho until maybe 3 minutes before it happened.
Yeah.
It was just, if it was all on him, did he want to walk down and get it, or did he want us to present it to him on the stage? And if he was presenting on the stage, I was going to do it. If he wanted it on the field, we were going to have David Sherman, the president of DI, do it, because it wouldn't look comical handing it to him, given the respective heights. And we got the high sign like right before the ceremony started. You're going to do this presentation on the stage. And it was like, no, I guess I'm doing this now.
Man.
But man, Lucho, it's here's the I don't know. I was thinking about this earlier today. I don't know if you guys have had similar thoughts. Because of when he arrived, as FC Cincinnati fans, at least MLS FC Cincinnati fans, we have never seen good soccer without Lucho. Like, we don't know what winning MLS soccer looks like in this town if it doesn't involve Lucho ball, if it doesn't involve this brand of play and this style of play where it's talented people, but then this sort of chaos agent where it's get him the ball and let magic happen.
Yeah.
And this, for, maybe this transitions to the next point you were going to make. Wherever we go from here is deeply uncharted waters for the FC.
Yeah. Yeah. This is into the unknown for FCC. This is going to be a fun season of learning. I think we may see changes to formations that we weren't anticipating, things like that. TBD. I only say that because I haven't seen a minute of preseason games, so who knows what that team looks like. I want to bring this up, and then we'll get to the sort of replacement part of this. I find this part of it very funny. So we got confirmation between the last 2 days that the transfer of Lucho Acosta, I'm calling it a transfer. I know people are trying to come up with words for this. Folks, embrace transfer. I know it's not perfect. Just embrace transfer here. The transfer of Lucho Acosta to FC Dallas has allowed FC Cincinnati to convert that money up to $3 million into GAM.
Has this been confirmed by anyone? Like any real sources?
It has been confirmed.
Carter Chapley.
That's his name.
Okay.
Carter wrote it and Laurel wrote it. So,
okay. Well, okay. I read it in Carter's.
Yes.
That they would get GAM from the transfer.
So the thing is,
I do owe MLS, the MLS rules writers, an apology, as I thought it was probably a typo.
Right.
That it seemed to imply that you only didn't get GAM if the transfer of a DP was outside the league. Turns out, unlike many of the stuff I've identified before, that was on purpose.
Yeah, this loophole existed intentionally.
Job well done.
Very
identifying the loophole.
Good job.
Yeah.
You wrote it accurately this time.
It was very funny watching the Soccer Wise Discord go from yelling at everybody for interpreting the rule that way to going, oh yeah, we've been hearing from insiders that that's the rule. Oh, okay. Okay, guys.
This is why my rule has always been just read it.
Yes.
Yeah.
If MLS wants it to be different, they'll change it.
Right. It's amazing how far in life you can go just by reading the rule or reading the law. Like you can sound incredibly smart in rooms full of people by saying, well, has anyone actually looked and seen what it actually says?
Like, why don't we check that out? This is the rule. Well, what's your source? Well, I read it.
I read it in a book.
That's what it says.
In the rule book.
Yeah.
But I bring that up because if Lucho had stayed, let's say, which is what I think going back to at least October, we all would have hoped. Even November and December, we all would have hoped he just would have stayed and shut up. The team is in a better spot financially now. Like
fix your roster compliance with one weird trick.
This one trick MLS doesn't want you to know about. If you don't read the rules.
I mean, again, all of these numbers are fake. I'm probably misaccounting for things. I mean, hell, Grayson pointed out a $100,000 flaw in my spreadsheet today. So, we're still learning here. I think this saved the jobs of both Corey Baird and Sergio Santos. I don't see how the team was roster compliant with both of them on the roster.
Lucho Acosta,
stayed.
Job creator, Lucho Acosta.
When Kevin says he didn't see how the team was roster compliant with both of them, he means he didn't see how the team was roster compliant with either of them. He was assuming that both needed to be bought out.
Yes, no, not one or the other. You needed to find, give or take, $1.5 million of salary to dump immediately. And I mean, I hate to do it, but they're the only ones that added up to that felt expendable. Like you could be a jerk and say like cut the goalkeeper room down all the way to Celentano and Paul Walters, and that wouldn't have gotten you close. Throw in Powell, that wouldn't have gotten you close either. Like they were in a tough spot. Hell, that's half the reason why I think Lucas Engel had been hesitated upon, because maybe they could have backed out of something at the last second if this didn't look like it was happening. I don't know. But with this move, again, all the caveats that I normally throw out there, I'm looking at FC Cincinnati with a designated player on the roster and using the 3 designated player model, which does not give you that $2 million GAM bonus. This team will have 2 open roster spots and $1.5 million of budget room to work with. I mean, That's a hell of an in-league trade. That's
Did
two
you run it with the
U22s.
2 DP model?
So if we go 2 DP model and we eat all of Luca Orishano's
Transfer fee
now, you have $500,000 to play with in 2 open roster spots.
That's 2 U22s.
It's 2 U22s, and you call it a day, and maybe $100,000 to give to Luca and
you know what? You know the funniest possible thing, the funniest possible reason to use the 2 DP model would be to prevent what we talked about on the last episode of Luca being able to say, well, I'm a DP. You can pay me as much money as you want. It's not going to impact. It's like, I'm sorry, we're going with the 2 DP model. We can't add you here. It's like, you'd make more money. You'd save more money by making me a DP. I don't know what you're talking about. That it's fuzzy math. I don't know.
Okay, Kevin, here's the real trick question.
I've got the sheet up.
Here's the I don't know, double jeopardy,
switching halfway through the year.
Yep. So what if we have just 2 DPs for half the year?
Right.
And then we sign another external DP in the summer.
So I played around with this before. Oh, let me see if I can pull it up. Because I was goofing around at the idea of what would it look like to bring in...
People who don't know, if you, under this new rule, you can choose a different model each, basically half of the year. So before the summer transfer window, you can roll with 3 DPs. And then in the summer transfer window, you can switch it to the 2 DP model, and you can get another $1 million GAM bonus for the rest of the year. Or conversely, as long as you don't use up more than $1 million of your GAM bonus the first part of the year, you can start with the 2 DP model, and then in the summer transfer window, switch to the 3 DP model, and you still get that up to $1 million in GAM for the first part of the year.
Yes. So
which obviously simple, easy.
Yeah. So I did run these numbers, and I even made it more complicated on myself because I then bought out 2 players halfway through the year. So I'm counting half of their roster.
Because you can buy out up to 2 players now, and you can do it up until I think the end of the second transfer window, right?
So you got a lot of wiggle room. So the way I decided to do this was start with 2 DP, then move to 3 DP in the summer, buy out Santos in the summer. Oh, and this was the other trick, and Baird before the season starts. If you do all of that, you end up with, again, as I see it, $145,000 to spare, and you can bring in let's say, Weston McKennie in the summer. Or whoever. I mean, insert favorite DP here.
How many U22s have they brought in under your assumption?
So this would be no U22s.
No additional U22s.
Now, again, you would have $150,000, give or take, to play with. You could bring in one under the age of 20 or 21. There's a slightly smaller
20 or under. You can. It's $150,000 cap hit.
So if you
21 or 22, it's a $200,000 cap hit.
So if you can find a 20-year-old worth dropping a $3 million transfer fee for, you could bring them in as well. There's probably not a lot of those guys. That's why I say that, but it's an option. So there's some wiggle room there, but I think we're probably going to be locked into whatever we pick.
It does, like, we've kind of danced around this subject a little bit. What was the plan if Lucho hadn't popped off after the NYCFC game?
So you ever heard the song "The Way" by Fastball?
Yeah,
it's kind of like that.
Fair enough.
I think the plan
Every
was
road
always
is paved in gold. What?
Yeah, then you drive your car off the cliff. you leave the kids at home, and you just say bye.
I think the plan was always to sell Barrial. And the second that didn't happen, I think that's when the panic starts to set in.
Sure. But like, imagine, alternate timeline where Lucho's bummed about the NYCFC match, but keeps his thoughts to himself. And after a couple of days, calms down. and decides, you know what? We have an opportunity next year. I'm going to redouble my efforts and get ready training. What the hell was this team going to do?
Chief, this leads me to a really fun conspiracy theory, which is, what if that did happen? And just a few days later, Lucho texts Albright and he's like, hey, you know what, man? I was feeling my emotions. You know how I play, hard on my sleeve, 24/7. I'm sorry. Like, let's build for next year. And Albright just writes back, you've given me an opportunity.
New phone, who dis?
Pisses him off, does everything he can, starts selling everybody, just trashing Moreno and Assad to anybody who will listen. Make sure that they don't end up anywhere positive, just ruining anybody's ability to reconcile with Lucho.
It's like this elaborate catfish scheme that Chris Albright has, pretending to be people down at Boca Juniors, texting Lucho saying, we'd love to have you down here. Can you get out of your contract? We swear this is not a scam.
Sometimes you just like learn hard truths.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and it becomes like a formative experience in your life. Like when I was sitting in the lobby at the eye doctor's office as a little kid, and the Way by Fastball came on, and the teenage girl working the reception desk explained to me as a little kid what the song was about. That then becomes a formative experience in your life.
I was more of an OMC How Bizarre fan personally.
Man,
and you're just like, you live your entire life being like, well, that's always an option available to me.
The door is always open.
Just gotta jerk the wheel a little bit. It's okay. We don't know what happens.
Every time you drive across a bridge, you're just like,
what if I did?
What if I just
yeah, driving north of Lebanon, big bridge over the valley. You know, it just what if?
What are the vibes in Cincinnati after the big transfers this week? Oh,
what if I just
not great, Bob. Oh God, yeah, I don't know. We've heard Albright say sometimes he has to be the bad guy. Maybe the plan all along was to sell Lucho. This was a very long like coordinated effort.
Like a year-long gaslighting operation to convince Lucho that he needed to request a transfer out.
There may have been a honeypot involved.
Oh my God.
How badly do you want access?
It does feel
just him
like
and Eric Swalwell.
And TBD on what's his name? One of the other Doge kids running around there. Look, the team is financially in a better spot. And then the question will be, is it in a better spot on the field with the arrival of Evander to this team from Portland, an MVP finalist from just last year? He comes to Cincinnati. He tied Lucho Acosta on assists last year. An exciting, much younger player, a similar-ish position on the field. It really does feel plug and play, and it does feel like a player that allows this team to hit the ground running. He knows the league. He knows he's played in Cincinnati just a couple of years ago. I don't know, Grayson. It's a little weird talking about it now because we know he's with the team. We know that this is coming. It's not official, so there's always a tiny part of me that thinks like, could everything get blown to hell? But assuming this is the case, how do we feel about the move?
I mean, I feel good about it now. Like, you feel like the process makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You have somebody who performed as well as Lucho last year on a much worse team.
Yeah.
Who is, 4-ish years younger. Seems to have more in his bag of tricks. Although maybe not a single trick as good as Lucho's one cool trick As Chief has pointed out, like wouldn't exactly play the same exact way as Lucho, but matches up well with Lucho in the things that you really, really care about.
Yeah.
There's been my big thought is not big thought. It's a thought. It's a thought. It's
all the thoughts you've had. It's certainly one of them.
It's primary for me, but size is always relative, versus other people's thoughts. Is it feels like the team has been, I hate to say limited, because just letting Lucho do whatever he wants to do as your offensive game plan worked pretty well most of the time.
Yeah.
But it feels like the team has been fairly limited in like how it can play. Like it was just basically like, whatever Lucho creates, we eat. Right.
Right.
I think Evander seems like a player who you can incorporate into like kind of a more robust offensive game plan, because he doesn't seem like he needs to be so ball dominant. And it seems to be like somebody who has a little more versatility, but still will do a lot for you. So I don't want to say like the team was limited by Lucho, but it does seem like, maybe the coaches now could have a little bit more freedom to like develop, and to develop a way of playing the way like Columbus had a way of playing.
Right.
Where like, even if Cucho was like missing a game, they could still replicate the way of playing to enough degree to be competitive.
Yeah.
Like the way, like when Lucho wasn't playing, it was just like, okay, well, we'll just give Dotto 1,000 touches.
Right.
Right. Like there was no idea.
Not a great option.
There was like no idea of like what to do if Lucho wasn't playing. And I do think that there's at least an argument that they needed to get away from that, whether Lucho was here or not. And maybe the way you had to do it was to move on from Lucho to a different kind of player who, by the way, like Evander was an MVP finalist last year. Lucho was not.
Right. Right. And we started to see over the last 2 years that Lucho had if it had happened again this year, you'd say absolutely lacked the ability to finish a season as strong as he started it. He seemed to slow down back-to-back years. As far as I can tell, Evander,
much more 24th and 23.
Agreed.
Right.
Agreed. But as far as I can tell, not a concern with Evander. Also playing on an artificial pitch for his home matches in Portland versus presumably the nice, lush, natural grass of TQL Stadium. Chief, lots of people waiting for this one. You were not the biggest fan of the idea when it was first floated. Now that it is on your doorstep, how do you feel?
I don't know that my feelings have changed much. I had a chance to watch Evander, so I actually went back and I, during the course of several long exercise bike rides at the gym, I watched a couple of Portland games that he played in. Yeah. I watched his highlight package on Apple. He's a very different player than Lucho. He occupies the same space on the field, but just in terms of, like Grayson said, how ball dominant he is, it's going to be a change of pace from Lucho. I think he's very good. I think that there's a lot to like about bringing in Evander. I agree completely. I think I brought it up a couple weeks ago that you are, by getting a player that is already in MLS, you are shortcutting the adjustment year, the Goss theorem. You are shortcutting the development year. And so now instead of having two DPs, Denke and a replacement for Lucho that are both year one MLS, you're bringing a guy in who's experienced in the league. And all the little stupid things that are hard to get used to. Living in the United States, the travel, the opposition, how the league is officiated, the pace of play in the league, other figures around the league. He's read scouting reports on teams. He's played against these people. He's seen this up close. This is not going to be a surprise for him. And he seems like he is more positioned for a team right now that is in win now mode. This is a win now and win in the future move. It's incredibly ambitious from ownership in terms of the cost. $12 million cash outlay. It raises the total amount spent this window to north of $30 million, I think, at this point for the FC, which is in MLS, it is a staggering sum of money for a club to invest in one window.
I think Atlanta has beat that, but I'd be surprised if anybody else in the league has beat that this window.
Atlanta's at what, 32, 36?
So Atlanta paid 20 something for Latte Lath, and then 12 for Almiron.
Yeah.
And then I think I don't know if they signed anybody. I don't remember off the top of my head if they signed anybody else. But so Atlanta, I think, did have more of a set. But Atlanta also, if you want to talk about ambition, Atlanta sold like 2 players last year for like north of $30 million. They sold Almada and Giacomakis. Like they sold Almada for like what, 20 something?
Yeah.
And they sold Giacomakis for I think north of 10.
Yeah, down to Mexico.
Or 10-ish down to Mexico. So Atlanta's spent a little bit more than they earned. FC Cincinnati
spent a lot more than they earned. And like, it's put into perspective when you see that like the Union today.
Oh my God. I was about to bring this up. Yes. Oh my God.
Set their club record for an incoming transfer at $3 million for, I believe, a U22 that's going to be a 22-year-old DP.
22-year-old designated player at $3 million. I think that's less than Isaac Atonga cost this club.
I think Lucho Acosta just set the record for Dallas at $5 million.
Yep.
Like
he did.
There will be I would be willing to wager that there will be double-digit clubs that you can add up that will in aggregate spend less money than FC Cincinnati did this window. And do I think that there was probably better options out there than Evander in terms of raw talent? I do. I think that's unquestionable that there are better players out there than Evander. But available, can be in Clearwater right now, familiar with the league, MVP caliber.
But here's the other thing.
I don't love. Here's what I would say. I don't love the move, but I recognize that I think it is a very, very good move with a very high floor and a very high ceiling, which, I think they could have done better. But if you put me on the spot and said who, I wouldn't have an answer for you. So it feels kind of disingenuous to criticize it. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be really, really well.
Lucho was not the Dallas record fee. Peter Musa and Alan Velasco both were higher, but on Atlanta, so Atlanta spent, and these are in euros because I'm too lazy to then pull up the transfer market. So they spent 21.
It's basically 1-to-1 right now. The euro is in the tank.
Yeah.
So Atlanta spent 21 for Latte Lath. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Again, don't care.
Middlesbrough.
They spent 12 for Miranchuk, and they spent 9.5 for Almiron. They got, though, 19.5 for Almada, 10.10 for Caleb Wiley, and 9.3 for Giacomakis. It's like essentially. Oh, they also got another 3.8 for Sosa.
Yeah.
So like Atlanta is like about even.
Yeah.
On their transfer spend.
The net spend
we are
the
like,
Euros focus on.
Like our ownership group has gone into this, with a massive, deficit this year to maintain
on the heels of eating Bupenz's deal last year. Right. Like the transfer fee, not the deal. They didn't have to pay him because he was cause terminated, but they didn't recoup a dime of the money they spent bringing him in. I think there was over $8 million on the transfer for Bupenza.
I think it was like 7, but
Yeah.
But yeah,
Still
it's,
waiting to come good on the Barreal transfer. Yeah.
We have 15.3 euros for Denke, 2.5 for Orishano, 2 for Gilberto Flores, which is not up on transfer market yet. Going to be 12 for Evander. So that's a lot.
it's a ton. With the only incoming being the
Acosta.
five for Acosta.
And then we got some GAM for Awazium and Murphy. We got a small loan fee for Barreal. Got some GAM for...
But GAM's not
Kelsey,
real money. GAM is just the license to spend even more ownership money is what that is.
Oh, right.
So and if you also think about it, like Chief, my instinct also is like, if you're spending 12 million on a transfer, like Columbus got Cucho for 10, maybe you could get a better player than Evander for 12. But also Austin just paid 10 for Brandon Vasquez.
Yeah.
Like the market might be kind of what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
And that was Max's big point always. Like players are worth what they're being bought for and what they're being offered for. There's no like intrinsic worth of a player at all.
Yeah. And like, maybe I'm not sure I would take Almiron over Evander today.
30
right?
years old.
Yeah.
And also Almiron, isn't going to come here. He's going to go to Atlanta.
Right.
Because that's where he already was. And, he's got a connection there. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know either. Here's what I do know about Evander. Please. Is that watching him play, FC Cincinnati is going to look very different this year. And the reason why is that Evander is not as ball dominant as Lucho was. He is not the focal point of an offense the way Lucho was singularly. Lucho was the center of gravity on the field. The ball always needed to go to him. The ball always seemed to find him. And when it wasn't finding him, the offense was ineffective. With Evander, I am incredibly curious who is going to step up for FC Cincinnati, because the offense over the last several seasons has had a habit of turning into 10 guys waiting for Lucho Acosta to do something brilliant.
Yeah.
And I don't know to what degree that's because nobody really knew what he was going to do next. So there was no way to play in a formation. There was no way to make runs. There was no predictability to it. It was just a lot of freelancing from guys that were told generally what to do and generally knew what Lucho liked to do. And maybe this offers the opportunity for more tactical play, for more set roles, more defined action on the field. But what can't happen is 10 guys standing around the field waiting for Evander to do something, because that's not his game. It's not his game at all.
But you don't want that.
No, you don't.
But I don't think you want to do. I don't think you want that. Like if you look at.
I mean, to be fair, nobody wanted that when Lucho was around either. It was endlessly frustrating.
If you look at with Acosta, and again, like I don't want to downplay what he did here. He was an incredible player. Put up big numbers. Obviously, won MVP. But like, if you think about the players who, and maybe you guys might disagree, but if you think about the players who like, you would put in the category of like actually played well with Lucho. It's Brenner, Barreal,
Kubo
maybe, yeah. Assad Moreno, but like other than like Brenner was Brenner, but the rest of them, it's like okay, well they were just like fully deferential to Lucho and like observing Lucho and not like not like having their own ideas, right? And we have good players in this team. Yeah, and we have guys with ideas. And like I would like to see a team where you could think about an offense of like, how do we maximize like all of these guys' qualities?
Sure. My problem though, and where like I have concern, and again, I'm going to have concern until I see what it looks like because I don't have a frame of reference for it,
100%.
is that when
Obviously, 100%.
when Lucho wasn't on the field because he was hurt, this team also didn't have ideas.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it turned into the same thing. It was, a lot of people standing around waiting for Dotto to make a play or for Kubo to make a play.
Or Shana to make a play, and he's
Right.
not a Lucho player. Like he's not going to,
Right. So that can't happen. Like there has to be something. And it's why I'm happy Evander is apparently in Florida and that they're getting this process started. And I assume it's been said this deal has been done for maybe weeks as they were waiting to figure out what Lucho is doing. So hopefully Evander was beginning his film study of his new team already and getting to know a little bit about what the tendencies were of the players down here. I had this intrusive thought and tell me how ridiculous this is.
Okay.
Scale of 1 to 10. Can Pat Noonan coach? Or is Pat Noonan good with the Lucho ball offense? Because I know that sounds absurd. And I know and I don't intend this to be a hot take, but have we really seen this coaching staff scheme? I feel like we haven't seen them using their full powers yet. And I'm nervous about what that looks like. I don't know what it looks like.
I actually had the exact same intrusive thought today, but came to it a little differently.
Okay.
And I'll tell you how I came to it. I was listening to the MLS Journeyman podcast with it's hosted by Dax McCarty, Alan Gordon, and Dan Gargan. And they were talking about San Jose's off season, how San Jose is a team that they feel like their fans should be really excited for the season because of, Bruce Arena coming in and some of the turnover and blah, blah, blah. And they all talked to each other. And I think Alan Gordon definitely did. I don't know if the others did. Dax might have played for Bruce with the national team. I'm positive Alan Gordon played for Bruce at Galaxy.
Yes.
They were they had a comment where he was like, and you know what Bruce's tactics are? Non-existent. Just let they're just give the players freedom to do what they do. And because they were talking about with Carles Gil and in New England, and then with Chicho and Espinoza in San Jose. And then when they said that, I immediately thought oh shit, Pat Noonan is part of the Bruce Arena coaching tree. And what we've seen from the offense is it's that for the offensive coaching has been that give Lucho freedom to create. But these guys they are their own men, right? We don't know. They inherited Lucho.
They did.
And there's no doubt
maximized it.
Right. There's no doubt that they maximized it. They did change the tactics a little bit. They got him the ball further up the field than Yop was having him get the ball.
Yeah.
That's not hard.
Yeah.
Considering where he was.
It was too hard for a fucking sorry. For a brilliant Dutch, Manchester United player who we were told he could not be fired under any circumstances. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I guess we'll see, right?
Grayson, I've similar thoughts. So I'll counter argument and then I'll counter my own argument there. The counter argument is, well, sure, he is from the Bruce Arena tree. Before Cincinnati, he spent plenty of time under.
One other thing,
please.
They do have defensive tactics.
Yes.
They have incredible defensive tactics.
Tactics. I do. Okay. So, but
Yeah.
That's all.
The back line and goalkeeper has almost looked plug and play with virtually anybody that they put back there with Noonan in charge. Agreed. No, I was just gonna say he comes from Philly, where he was under Jim Curtin forever, who was seen as one of the great coaching minds of MLS right up until he was, I think, unfairly fired from his job there in Philadelphia.
He kind of got fired because they were bored of him a little. There really was no performance reason to fire Jim Curtin. It was just kind of like, you've been here too long. Maybe we need to see other people.
I think they decided to go full Red Bull.
Yeah, Ernst Tanner
we're not
inherited
good
him.
Players anymore. We're just exactly.
He inherited him and was just waiting for one season to fall off to finally dump him and get his man. So we'll see what that team looks like. But my God, it's very embarrassing. But the other side of that is when we have seen, and if we broaden it out to this coaching staff, with Chad Marshall in charge of the last 8 games when he took over for the fired Yapstam, where they
Tyrone Marshall.
Chad
Marshall is a different guy.
Center back used to play in Seattle.
It happens.
I normally call him Chris Marshall.
Chris Marshall.
Also former crew. Chad Marshall.
Not going to recognize that.
Marshall University.
Marshall McLuhan.
But that stint did not go well. And if we remember the original intent of this team, we were told over and over again, the 4-4-2 diamond. We saw it one time, and this team got rocked 5-1, and it was immediately abandoned for Lucho ball. So, when we've seen the tactics try to come out, it hasn't been pretty. I assume things have happened since then.
It's an intrusive thought. That's why I labeled it.
They tried to do things last year, right? Because they went
the sword,
right? And they moved Orishano forward either as a second striker or as a second 10.
So, I mean, they didn't repeat a lineup, right? Like they certainly tried things.
They have tried things.
Yeah.
So
they've been trying.
Everyone's growing and learning.
Yeah. No, it was, like I said, I described this as an intrusive thought. Of course, Pat Noonan can coach, but there was that moment where it was like,
you mean former coach of the year, Pat Noonan?
Yeah. They just hand that award out. This is all me processing that I don't know. I can watch Evander play on Portland, but it is impossible to watch Evander play on Portland for me. And then imagine what he looks like in this Cincinnati offense without also thinking to myself, there are some people that are going to need to do some things they didn't do last year in order for this to work. And they all have the talent to do that. Yeah. They all have there are some phenomenally talented people on this team. And of course, Kevin Denke, that's a striker the caliber of which we haven't had ever on this team before. So yeah, there's going to be different things going on.
Orishano had a nice year last year, but I think he needs to take a step up. Yeah. Like I think that
step up further in the field. He needs he's been playing
because I think with him playing forward, all year as like his designated position, like they are going to need more on the stat sheet out of him than they got last year. Like I also think probably Pavel needs to, contribute more on the stat sheet, even though I think he had a really good year last year.
I think Yedlin is the same way. Yeah. I think that there's a lot of people like
Lucas Engel needs to do more this year than he did last year.
Clearly he did nothing last year. Complete non-entity. But you can't, they took Batman off the team and there were it was very clear that there was one Batman and a lot of Robins and other members of the Bat family. Somebody's going to need to step up and be Batman this year. And I don't know who that's going to be. It's not. It could be Evander, but that's not his game.
Who was Azrael?
I don't know. I do know that
John Paul Valley.
I was just trying to say
Kubo was definitely Damian Wayne, though. He's got that vibe.
I was just going to say, maybe this is a whole team of Nightwings, okay? We're all going to get the Robin glow-ups across the board.
Alvaro was Jason Todd.
R.I.P. in peace. You know, the fans killed him off by calling a 1-900 number. You had to pay to vote.
I had no idea I had no idea about that.
Yeah, you called a number in the back of the comic book, and depending on how many people were willing to pay a hotline number call to vote, he lived or died. It's the future they want for us, paying to vote.
Paying to kill in another way.
Kevin, what about you?
Evander. Look, man, the comments you guys are making is just more fuel to my fire of, boy, this would be a lot easier if we could watch some preseason games. I'm watching these teams.
All those preseason games Evander has played so far.
Don't worry about Evander, but we would have seen a Lucho-less FCC. We would have seen a Denke and
scored today.
Tiny extent Orishano chemistry developing. Would have loved to have seen what Buka looks like further up the field, or how some of these trialists or young guys are coming along. I mean, just from reading along in the live blogs and the tweets, it looks like Momba Dem is a lock on this roster. I mean, come on. I don't know what we're doing not signing this guy. Yeah, I would love to see more of this. Yeah, and it hurts too that a bunch of these guys, almost every guy we've mentioned hasn't been in camp. But I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see what this team looks like. I think this team would be really good even if we didn't bring in Evander. Now, obviously, ceiling's not as high, but I think we have a really good roster top to bottom. I think there's flexibility there to make some moves in the summer to either shore up after some injuries or to add some weapons in some certain positions that we may need going forward. This is exciting. And I'm looking around the East, and certainly some teams have improved, but I think playoffs are a lock. If I have to come back and eat these words, we'll be calling for everybody's heads. Don't worry. But playoffs are a lock at this point. I think we'll see what the cup competitions offer us from there. But I'm excited to see what this team looks like. I'm excited to see this team grow. And I mean, hell, if we can get 2 good years out of Evander, a couple of good years out of Denke, sky's the limit, man. This team could be incredible.
It's wild how many players have turned over since the Supporters Shield team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just at this point, what, Miazga and Roman?
I mean,
and Obi?
Kubo. You talking about Haglund?
No, starters.
Oh.
Your projected 11 is just Miazga.
Obi, Miazga, Roman.
8 of the other 11 starters are different from the 2023 Supporters Shield winning team.
Well, it's not limited to us. You've had multiple big money LA Galaxy players going to the media being like, what the hell's going on here? Yeah. You had Marco Royce and Maya Yoshida.
Yeah.
Both talking to
this.
LA media, very openly being like, what's happening here?
There is something really broken about performance bonuses for winning the cup.
I feel like there's got to be some standardization when it comes to the performance bonuses.
Yeah.
Where it's just these 5%. Are just bargained for bonuses. Yeah. It's a percentage of your contract. And if it's a bonus for you can cut aside goal bonuses, assist bonuses, whatever. Right. But if it's just it's a bonus for the Supporter Shield, or a bonus for MLS Cup, or a bonus for Leagues Cup,
or even a bonus for number of wins. Yeah.
A bonus for winning a trophy, or for making the playoffs, or for hitting a certain portion of the table. It's standardized and it doesn't count against the cap.
Yeah.
No.
It seems insane.
There's got to be a way to do that.
You'd go out of your way to punish those teams, and then also expect these teams to compete well year after year in Champions League and Leagues Cup and whatever else. You can't have both. If you want pure parity where if you win, that's great. Now you have to blow up your whole roster and start all over. That's fine. But then those teams shouldn't be in the continental competitions.
Right. Exactly.
His quotes were fantastic, though. I know we're on a tangent here, but I'm just going to read them out. When you're champion, the next year you have a smaller budget in the league. That means you can't buy good players anymore, even if you lose 2 or 3 good players, he said while riding a bike around town. I don't understand.
By the way, I watched this video. I'm really concerned about the person taking the video. Like, that doesn't seem like it was very safe.
No.
Like,
this is apparently like Royce's thing. He has hired like a videographer to do his vlogs with him and has done this for a long time.
Okay, but what's going on? Is the videographer looking at him and riding a bike?
I am assuming the videographer is either riding a bike or riding a scooter and has a one-handed like gimbal camera that is automatically tracking and pointing at Royce. So I don't think it's as dangerous as it appears.
Okay.
It gets better though. Hold on. I don't understand the rules. Honestly, it is how it is. I think it will be a long fucking season, February until October, and then the playoffs. This is the best part. We are champions, but nobody cares here. Looks around as people walk by him.
In fairness, he is going pretty quickly by those people if you watch the video. But still,
I wouldn't recognize Marco Royce on a bike.
I'll be honest, I watched the video and thought, oh, that's what he looks like. He's like wearing sunglasses and his hair is all pulled back.
That's
it's
true. Like
different.
Anybody with sunglasses.
Different
I don't know who that is.
Well, Chief.
He just looks like a bully.
Except for the guy from A Different Man.
This goes back to my point. I'm deathly afraid of Mitch Hildebrandt coming back to TQL Stadium and not being recognized.
Yep. He's had season tickets next year for 2 years.
It's this asshole that keeps yelling.
We gotta get Mitch back.
We picked this ahead of time. The away day to Portland, August 16th. My God, must see TV.
We could not have
picked
that better. By the way, we picked that ahead of time, and there was not a whisper of Evander at that point in time.
I don't think cash transfers were an option.
No, cash transfer didn't exist. Kevin Kelsey wasn't at Portland yet either.
Oh my God, if he pops off, man, I totally forgot about the fact that he's there. And then you have May 28th, FC Dallas comes to Cincinnati. Chief, we've talked about this previously, about the cash transfers maybe being a net negative for the league. I think I made this point. If I didn't, I regret it. This certainly improves the storytelling in the league.
Yeah. I mean, that you take an otherwise who gives a shit game between the FC and Dallas, and all of a sudden
it's a lot of drama.
I'm going to go out of my way to make sure I'm at this game. Whereas, I would have probably gone anyway, but this time now it is circled on the calendar.
Yeah. This is one of those that they've kicked around the idea of flexing some games or some game times. Maybe something gets moved to a late afternoon sort of featured spot. I don't know what else is scheduled that weekend or that day, but I could see this one getting a little more shine on it from national media when it comes up. Man.
Yeah. God, I'm not looking forward to that.
He's gonna score. Like, there's no way he's not going to score.
I don't want to see the little tricks. I do not like it.
There's no chance Lucho doesn't score when he comes here.
Oh, yeah. The only question is he getting 2? One is a given, like, no doubt.
He is. He's gonna posterize Nick Hagland, I feel like.
But this does raise an interesting question, though. Roman Celentano, does he stop a Lucho PK?
They sub in Evan Laura.
You have to play Evan Laura that whole game.
Yeah.
You have to. He knows
kryptonite.
Him.
Yes. He said that
He's kryptonite.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that'd be so fun. Hey, Roman, just take tonight off. We got a guy. We're calling in the ringer.
Just Matt Miazga doing the too short thing.
If Matt Miazga does the too short thing to Lucho, game over. I just print it on a banner, t-shirt, tifo, everything.
Tifus.
Get the tifus going. All right. That's probably enough for an emergency postcast. I was thinking about this, guys.
Do you do another ad break? We can do like 2 Patreon questions.
Sure. We can. But I was just thinking, though, this was supposed to be the last Thursday of the off season where we wouldn't have an episode. And here we are.
We're in, baby.
It's happening. It's happening. Let's do this. All right. Let's since we're here, since we've decided to drop the emergency pod, let's take a quick break. Let's hear from our friends over at Cincy Shirts, and let's answer a couple of Patreon questions here. Before we get on over to the next part of the episode, I do want to tell you about our friends over at Cincy Shirts. That is right. New year, new you. Go pick up some new threads over at Cincy Shirts. They got what you're looking for. They got Cincinnati sports. They got Cincinnati culture, Cincinnati geography, Cincinnati businesses. Everything you're looking for, they got it over there at cincyshirts.com. Hey, when you're there, use the promo code ThePostCincy, all one word, all caps. They knock 10% off your entire order for using that one. And if I don't mind dropping this one, we sell merch through Cincy Shirts. That's right. You want a Post shirt, a Cincy shirt from Cincy Shirts? Check them out. It is good stuff there. We will have new designs for the new year, but they're not there yet. So this might be your last chance to collect some of these designs. You want an Opie shirt, one of the 12. They got some good stuff there. Hey, they're not just online. They're in person as well. Go check them out in Loveland and in Northern Kentucky. They've got 2 fantastic locations. They will print on demand. You can work with them, come up with maybe a little goofy idea. They'll work with you, I promise. And again, the promo code, ThePostCincy, all one word, all caps. They knock 10% off your order. That works on Post merch as well. Want to support us twice? Absolutely, you can do that. So huge thank you again to our friends over at Cincy Shirts, and a huge thank you to you, listener, for using that code. All right, we are back. We've got Patreon questions. Before we get to the Patreon questions, though, I got to tell you about the live show happening at Gold Star in Alexandria, Kentucky. Be there or be square. We will be celebrating 10 years of supporting FC Cincinnati. And I mean that, actually. We have reached out and heard back from some of the OGs, some of the original boots on the ground supporters who helped get some of the first supporters groups up and running. And we want to talk to them about their behind the scenes activities, what it was like in those good old days. We want to hear those stories that haven't been told. We want to give them an opportunity to be told. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. We heard from Chief earlier about the story about how deciding who got to hand off the Supporter Shield trophy. I want more stories like that. I want to know, how did the march come to be? Who decided the route of the march? I want to know, how did the Pride get started, and how much money did Jeff Birding pay them to get it going? I got to know.
I want to know about the secret website.
Obviously, the secret website.
We will reveal the secret website. It'll be a good time. Come on out. There'll be some other stuff going on as well. Gold Star is very excited about this as well. So let's have a good showing out there. Let's get hyped for the season ahead. Very excited for that. Now, on to the Patreon questions, which come to us from, get this, Patreon, and it's the very attractive and very lovely people who pay $2 a month to ask a question and keep the pirate ship afloat. But before I ask that, Chief, it looks like you're ready to break some news on me. What do you got?
No, it was just that while we were in between the ad break, I got online to see if anything else had happened, and I got a targeted ad for, apparently there's a tour going and coming to Cincinnati, the Bare Naked Ladies, Guster, and Fastball.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, where are they playing?
They're playing at the PNC Pavilion.
TQL Stadium. No, okay.
Fastball, of all the places.
Incredible. We've got some good questions here. I'm going to try to keep it topical just because I worry if we get to the end of February, we're a couple of games into the season, I don't know how relevant some of these questions will feel. David Mernon asks, who will go down as more hated, Frankie or Lucho? I do feel like we touched on this, but
Frankie.
It's got to be Frankie. Like,
I think the Lucho thing, while still raw, will hopefully fade pretty quickly. I mean, we went over it, but depending on how, if results go how we think they're going to go, it'll fade, after like 2 or 3 seasons.
I'll put it this way. Lucho Acosta, assuming the tradition remains, will definitely pull the sword at an FC Cincinnati game someday.
Well,
Frankie Amaya
before you
never. Oh, sorry.
Well, all right, no, go for it.
Frankie Amaya will never pull the sword at an FC Cincinnati game.
I was pausing to tell you. Aaron asked, "Can Lucho ever pull the sword?"
I mean, if you get him a step ladder, I think he might be able to do it.
I do think physically it would be a challenge. They would need to alter some things.
Maybe if they just get like a dagger, like instead.
It's like a novelty letter opener sword.
Or it's like from Game of Thrones, needle. Stick him with the pointy end.
That'd be fun.
He'll have to be retired.
Ooh.
And there will have to be no other raw kind of experience with him. But yeah, he could pull the sword.
Yeah. If we lose a cup final to his FC Dallas team or something, that would be
right. Or if he comes May 28th, people boo him real hard. He mouths off to the crowd. He scores. He does a real gaudy celebration. I mean, these stuff you can see like ways things can go bad. But yeah, I think as it stands, Lucho can pull the sword. It's just gonna take a while.
Yeah. Key asks, what's the meanest, most Cincinnati specific thing an FC fan could wish on Lucho? Key offers up a suggestion. My initial thought was a lifetime of Jason Williams interviews. Every interview Lucho does, it has to be with Jason Williams. The harshest Cincinnati specific.
If he wants to have a nice meal, it can only be at Prima Vista.
All his drinks from this day forward will taste like Hootie 14K.
I like it. Sadly, the meanest, most Cincinnati specific thing an FC fan could wish on Lucho is probably already happened, which is the longer he's spent in Cincinnati, the harder it will be for him to leave. And he'll be forever trapped here. He was pleading to the gods of soccer to get him to Argentina, and through all of his efforts, he only got to Frisco, Texas. This man is destined to come back after he's done playing. Oh.
Every time he opens up his app of choice to listen to music, it's mandatory Metallica on WEBN.
Hell yeah.
749 rock, 749 roll.
It's the Dawn Patrol greatest hits 24/7. Oh man, good stuff. Sean Pace asks, very topical, if the Postcast crew were part of an FC Cincinnati kit reveal, what role would they play in it? Chief, have you ever been a part of one?
Of a kit reveal?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been part of a kit reveal. Done a lot of dumb stuff. My actual pitch to someone who will go nameless was, so by now everyone's seen the kit reveal where the players are getting on the streetcar and there's supporters on the streetcar. My initial pitch was to have the three of us like sitting there, like reading the paper, like we were the put off people that like, what the hell is going on right here?
Man.
And it would require Grayson to show his face. But I figured like if no attention was called to us otherwise, it would have been acceptable because he just would have been a background character riding the streetcar as any good resident of the urban basin would do on a regular basis.
Like Jimmy Buffett in Jurassic World.
You know, he's just there.
Or like every Star Wars cameo in episode 7. I really thought like Opie should have been at one of the bus stops or the tram stops that the streetcar did not stop at.
The streetcar just leaves him.
It just stuck sad sitting on the bench. Would have been really funny.
If you wanted a shout out to the post, post crew, at the start of the video, there's a newspaper being read. If that just would have been the post Cincy, I would have died right there. That would have been.
I'm going to assume Carter had that in the original draft and somebody made him change it.
Well, they made him change it because nobody writes articles for the post Cincy, so no one would believe.
Damon does.
Damon does. Keep reading the website, folks. It is there. Actually, if I were a part of like the creative direction of a kit release, this is what I would do. I would post a picture of it on like Thanksgiving and with a link underneath it. To buy it.
That's absurd.
I don't know why it needs the cool video. Just like, hey, here's the new kit, everybody. Please buy it. Or here's an idea. I'm pretty sure they do this in England, but I haven't looked into it that closely. The last game of the year of the regular season on decision day, every team should play in the kit that they will play in next year. So you get to see what the team looks like in the new kit for just that one decision day. It makes decision day special, and then it can go on sale.
Yeah, but then people might show up to the first game in the new kit.
That's a good point. That would be bad.
Why would you want that?
Nobody wants that. It's absurd.
Why would you want to make decision day like more of an event?
What a crazy! It's insane to be like, oh, people are gonna have the current jersey at the game. No,
it's better to make it so that they can only buy it at a boutique pop-up shop for 2 hours in the middle of a workday on a Thursday.
You should have to buy it from Fanatics and get it in 6-7 months later.
Yeah, especially when they run out because we didn't expect all this demand
for a team that routinely sells out a 25,000 seat stadium.
Like the best way to sell a kit is to release it like the day before the season starts, have it available on Fanatics, and then if people spend 2 months clicking the link on their email that it says your package has shipped, and it just says tracking information not available, and just shows you a picture of like Key West, Florida.
Right. And then it ends up with you receive your Dankey DANKAY kit sometime in August.
That's honestly my favorite. And then sometime in October you can buy the kit for $8 because they're sitting on a bunch of unsold stock.
What I do want though at some point, and I put this out there tonight, I want at some point to be important enough to be on the wow, thanks for the team for sending me this cool jersey. Can't wait to get these. Can't wait to see these around town. Like the reporters and like Mo Egger got one. I love Mo. Like no shade to Mo for getting one. I want to be on that list someday. Would you rather be on that list or would you rather call them FC? I want to do both.
I want my kit to say the FC on the back.
FC, yeah. Or trialist, one or the other.
Trialist would be a really fun.
By the way, if anybody ever wants to go online and say like, I can't believe we're still doing this, by the way, in the year of our Lord, 2025.
Yeah.
But if you ever want to go online and be like, oh, well, actually the team is FCC and there's a lot of teams called FC. I'm not going to suggest what you should do, but I would think back to some of the earlier discussion about the fastball song, The Way.
Sudden movements.
Just let your mind wander in like a lonely moment is all I'm saying.
It's come on. The team can't say the FC. It's the nickname of the team. All right. Ask Google. Who's the FC? All right. Ohio State University's whole brand is that they are the Ohio State University. There are other state universities in Ohio, but they are the Ohio State University. We are the FC. There are other teams that call themselves FC. They have FC legally in their business documents, but we, FC Cincinnati fan base, are
the difference is I don't give a shit about them.
I saw an Atlanta United fan today on Twitter refer to us as the FC.
Boom.
Okay. It's working.
And by the way,
it's working.
If I tweet something about the FC or FC, are you confused? Do you not know what team I'm talking about?
Does communication not work that way?
Does your block and mute button not work? Do you have loved ones that you can share your thoughts with? Do you have to interact with me? No.
I am always encouraging people to
yell at your pet or your underling at work.
Mute and block us at all times. Yeah. Come on now.
I'm going to throw this out here. I just searched for the FC on Twitter, and 90% of the posts are FC Cincinnati.
Hell yeah.
It's done. It's done.
I got a last question here. It actually is relevant to what we were talking about. Onion Batter. I love when people have weird names on the Patreon, by the way. Seeing as Lucho is now traded within MLS, am I allowed to wear his jersey anymore?
Oh, that's a no. Not to a game.
Yeah, you can.
Ooh.
He's in the league.
Becomes a throwback now.
It's a throwback when he's retired.
Yeah, I think it plays.
All right. Fair enough.
I think
decided.
There you go.
Yeah, it plays.
A 10 is fine. I don't know though. The Lucha thing.
I'll say this. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I would. You don't do it when we play FC Dallas. Don't do it. Any other time, fair game.
Yeah.
You're celebrating what was. You're unburdened by what has been. You're celebrating what was, though.
You seem pretty burdened by what has been. You're wearing it on your back.
No, celebrating.
You're financially burdened by what has been at a minimum.
It's a sunk cost at the very least.
Now, if you sunk cost, calling the sunk cost fallacy a fallacy is to encourage people to be unburdened by what has been.
So
I'm just saying, just wear your jersey, man. Let it fly. It's going to be okay.
I think that's true. That's true. You can ask people for rules, but ultimately, the right answer is just wear your shirt, man. Yeah. Do whatever you want to do.
Do your thing, man.
Do whatever you want to do.
Here's the thing: if you wear the Acosta jersey, you are still less insufferable than the "I'll never wear another man's name on my back" guy.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the worst guy.
Typically wears a guy's name like on his forehead.
And on the back of his car and just about anywhere else they'll be able to print it.
Back of his jeans. I think that's going to do it for the for the postcast here, the emergency cast. I'm happy with where things are, gentlemen. I'm excited.
I'm excited for the season. Like, I can't wait. We're a week away from games that matter. By the time, basically exactly 1 week from now, we'll be watching this team play competitive soccer. It's going to look different. It's going to be talented. I can't wait for it.
I mean, it'll be exactly a week from now. That's a late kickoff on Wednesday.
It's a 10 o'clock tick. 10 o'clock tick. Damn it.
Well, Chief, done here? Yeah, get us out of here.
Fuck Columbus.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy Postcast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. Also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. If you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati. And like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it. If you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to this show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening.